Thank you for purchasing your Nanook XT Thermal lineup of fish houses. In this video, what we're going to do is we're going to go over the parts and pieces inside and also help you assemble this fish house. Let's open up the box and see what's inside. All right, so we got everything opened up. Next thing we're going to do is go through everything inside. So first things first, we have the tent. Next thing is we are going to have all of our canopy poles in here. So with the XT lineup, this is going to have all your canopy poles. On top of that, this will have your extension poles as well inside. So you want to make sure that you know that. 2 deluxe seats. A U-channel. Rope. Spreader pole, and last but not least, our inner pack. So now that we've got everything out, the next thing on the list is the hoop poles. So you're gonna have 3 full hoop poles and you're gonna have 1 extension. Biggest thing you need to understand with the extension and how to identify it is you're gonna have a lime green zip tie on the end of one of the ends of the hoop pole. This is gonna be your extension. This is gonna be that 45 that sticks out. So keep that on there, do not cut it. And when we get to that next step, you'll know why. Get the inner pack in front of us. Let's open it up and see what's inside. First thing we've got is our bag of RPSX clips, okay? Then we are going to have our hardware. Okay, note, the Allen wrench will be inside. If you would like to use a T-handle, you can use so. Otherwise, if you do not have an Allen wrench, one will be provided inside this hardware kit. Next, we will have our canopy pole plates. We'll have our canopy pole, our plugs. 2 of our mounting brackets. 2 seat swivels. 2 of our seat assembly. These will go on the front of the tub. These are what's going to hold the seats onto the base itself too. So we're going to have 2 of our collars for our extension poles. Going to have 4 of our seat legs. And we're also going to have 4 bases. These are going to go for the seats as well. So these will sit on the bottom and keep the seat flat and standing up. So that's everything from the inner pack. First thing we'll do is we'll get to the seat system and we'll get started with that now. On to the seat assembly. Pretty plain Jane. I've got the list of hardware that we're going to need here. One thing that we're going to need is the 106 456. You can see there's a lot of them in here. We're going to use a lot of them in this assembly process. We've got our 101 470s. These are what's going to connect the actual deluxe seat to the swivel. We've got our 106 284s. These are going to be our lock nuts. We're going to have our washers, the 101 081s. That's going to be the hardware you need for this, okay? And then like if you're using a T-handle, 5/32 is what you want for this. This is going to be for the whole job. Otherwise, the Allen wrench will be included in the hardware when you open it all up. So, and then all you'll need is a 7/16 inch socket or wrench. So first thing we're going to do here is we're going to start with the arms. Okay, you're going to want 2 per house or 2 per seat. You're going to want to make sure that these are both on the same side. So these are the clips that are going to go in. This is what's going to secure your seat to the tub. So first thing I like to do is we'll get the one started here. Okay, you're going to have your base of your bracket here. You're going to want to make sure on this that this is facing inside, okay? So how we will set this up, it doesn't matter if you start over here or over here. We'll set this up to where your base is sitting on the inside, okay? So that's how it's gonna go right away off the bat. What we're gonna do first, before we do that, is we're gonna get some of these out and get them set up. Now, you're gonna want your washers for this, and you're only gonna add one washer per Allen bolt, okay? So your washer is gonna slip on just like so. It's gonna rest on the head of that bolt, okay? And then what I'm gonna do, to make this simple, is I'm just gonna hold the whole system together for a second, okay? We're gonna do that. And what I'm gonna do right there is take the Allen head side and go to the outside, okay? So I'm gonna slip that through like so. Go in, and that's how it'll sit. Now from that point on, what I'll do is I will grab a couple of these, which I should have opened it up beforehand. So make sure you open up all the packages before. Let's get that open real quick. And all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put that in there, and that's just gonna help it stay there. That's gonna get the starting point of what we wanna do. Now what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna do the same thing over again. Okay, just gonna add one. And you can do this two different ways. You can either do it all at once on one side, or you can switch over and add the other one and do the same. So what I'll do is I just do it all on one side, make it simple. Don't need to tighten them down all the way at this point, just get them threaded on, okay? And from there now, I can work on the other one. Like I said, make sure that these clamps, make sure these are all facing the same direction. Okay, we're gonna set that on the inside of there. I'm gonna grab this in a washer, put that through the washer, run it through the back side there. Okay, add the one. I will hold that in place. I'm gonna do one more. Grab one more here. Okay, there we go. Easy. Now we'll just do this. Just get them on there snug. Okay, and now we're just gonna repeat that same process. Now what I can do is I can kind of lay it out. You can see everything stands. Now I can repeat that same exact process again. And what we'll do this time is we'll get these set so it doesn't want to tip on us right away. Okay, we'll go to the inside. I'll put that through there. Put that right there like so. We will tighten it down. Now that we've got that, now we'll go through, we'll finish off putting the rest of the bolts in. We'll tighten it down. Once it's all tightened down, we'll move on to that next step. So we've got the frame of the seat assembly done, okay? Nothing is too tight, it's snug, it's perfect. Remember, there's nylon washers inside there, which is gonna lock these nuts into place, so it's not gonna go anywhere. So don't get it too snug, just get it tight enough. You don't need to go crazy on it. So next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna apply the swivel. Very simple. Take the swivel, turn it sideways, so now it looks like a star shape almost. Okay, and we're gonna line that up here. Okay, so we've got that. We're gonna take 4 of these. We're just gonna slide them through. And it doesn't matter what direction this goes in. You can put the swivel this way, that way. It doesn't matter which way it goes on. The only thing that matters from this whole process in assembly is to make sure that these clamps are lined up with each other. So that's the only thing. And then what we'll do is take 4 of these. Tighten them down. Okay, got that. And then tighten them up. We got both of the frame assemblies for the seat done. Now the last thing that we have to do here is we just have to add the seat onto the swivel. So, pretty simple process here. We're gonna flip this deluxe seat over. I'm gonna make sure once again that these looks like a star. I'm just gonna simply put flip it over. I'm gonna line it up, just like so. And then we're gonna take our 101 470s, pull them out, and we're just gonna get them hand tight. It will be 4 per seat. Okay, once we got that, we'll take our 3/8" wrench, we'll tighten these down, and after that, we'll move on to the extension. We got the seat system done. We're all ready to rock and roll on that. We've got them both. One thing, the Nanook XT models and the Nanook XL models do not come with seat covers. So that's just a reminder, when you get your house, you open it up and you don't see the seat covers, that's because it's not included. That is definitely something you can purchase off of at Clam Outdoors. Otherwise, retailers will have them in stock as well. So that's just one quick reminder, just to let you know seat covers are not included with this. So from this point on, we've got all the seats done. We're ready to move on to the pole system. We're gonna first start off with the extensions, and we'll get into that right now. So we got the seat assembly all done, ready to go. Next thing we're gonna work on is our extensions, okay? So what we're gonna want for this is we're gonna want one of our main hoop poles. And what I mean by our full main hoop pole is the way you can identify. So you got the 2 big holes on the bottom, but then you got that 1 hole on top that's punched through on each side, okay? The next thing we're gonna want is our extension. Now you remember we talking about that lime green zip tie earlier. That's where this thing comes into place. So that's why I said do not cut that off until we get to this point. Now that we're at this point, we can snip it right off, okay? So we no longer need that. We have identified and know that this is our extension hoop pole. This is also gonna be smaller than the other ones, so it's gonna be shorter. Okay, we're gonna want our 2 collars. Okay, these are gonna be our collars for our extension canopy poles, and 2 RPSX clips. Now with these collars, they're going to have the hardware in them, okay? So you don't have to worry about trying to find the hardware, where is it at? It's all already pre-assembled onto there, but we're gonna obviously have to take it off. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use a number 2 Phillips. Okay, it doesn't matter if you use a regular Phillips screwdriver or an impact like this. I enjoy an impact, that's my personal choice, but you wanna make sure it's a number 2. You don't want it too small and you don't want it too big. So from there, all I'm gonna do is get these off. Let's put her in reverse. It's all gonna come right off. We'll do that for both. Okay, those are all off. Now that we've got these, I want to install these first. So I'll pull it off a little bit off the table, just makes it easier for me. But you're gonna have a side that's molded in for the actual nylon lock nut. As you can see, it fits right in there like so. That's what's gonna lock that into place when we come down to that point. But what I wanna do is I wanna make sure that this side is facing inwards. I don't want it facing outwards because when it locks in with the screw, I want the screw, the majority of the excess sitting on the inside so we're not damaging the tent or anything like that. So all I'm gonna simply do is open this up. You can see I have 2 little notches in there. Okay, and those are gonna clip into those holes that I talked about on this hoop pole. So put that on. We're just gonna go slide it back. There we go, it's clipped into place. Now from that point, we'll take our extension and we're gonna put that canopy pole on. There's a notch side, and then there's also a side that isn't notched. We want that notch side to face inward. So what I mean by inward is I want it to face inside the hoop pole. I don't want it to be facing outward, okay? So we're gonna find that notch side, see that it's going to the inside. I'm just gonna lay it in, like so. From there, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my Phillips screw. I'm just gonna set it in there. I'm not tightening it down or anything at this point. And what I'm gonna do from there is I'm gonna take that nylon lock nut. I'm going to get it in there. I'm gonna use my pointer finger to hold it in place while I start it. Okay. So I've started it, get it going. There we go, now it's tight. Now what I'm gonna do is I am going to do that same exact process on the other side real quick. And after that, we'll be ready to put on our extension hoop pole. So we've got our extension in front of us. We wanna put on our RPSX clips. And what you're gonna want for this is you're gonna want some electrical tape. We'll explain what we need the electrical tape for here in a second, but first things first, you're gonna see that little button on the inside. Okay, we wanna get rid of that for the time being. So what I like to do is, I like to pull this out and I turn it sideways. That eliminates that from in there and it just makes it easier when you go to slide them on. So all we're gonna simply do is slide that on. You can actually hear that it clicked into place. There's a tab that sits on the front of here. And that's the reasoning behind this. So I'll pull it off really quick and just show you what I mean. If you look inside there, I know it's hard to see, but there's a little tab with a button that sticks out. That button clips into the hoop pole itself, okay? And what you wanna do is, the reason we use the electrical tape is to keep it there in place, because if you don't, it can slide around very easily, okay? So it does not take much for that to happen. So what we do is we get it in the area that we want it, and we will take some electrical tape. You don't need much. And all we're doing is securing it in place. That's all we're doing with this. And so go like that, make one nice little wrap. Okay, I go 2 wraps and then I'm done. I don't go any more than that. You don't need any more than that. But now it's in place and it's not going anywhere, so you don't have to worry about it slipping around or doing anything like that. So I'm gonna flip this over. I'm gonna do the same thing over again. Slide it on there. Here to click in place. Take my electrical tape. Do 2 nice wraps. Do that, and now we are done and we're ready to install this. So all I'm gonna do here at this point is I'm gonna lay this down in front of me, and you can do it from the front or the back. I'm doing it this way just so you can see it better. A little bit easier from the other side, but all I'm doing is getting it on there. I'm not putting these down because I do not want those buttons out. Otherwise it will not go on without having to push in. So from that point, then all I'm doing is slowly kind of working it down. You gotta work it like this. You're doing it the way I'm doing it, but then once it gets close enough to you, you can just pull it into place. And from that point, if you want, you can flip these down back into their normal place. That is your hoop extension. From this point on, we're gonna work on the pull bracket system. So this is gonna be the canopy pulls and everything put into one to make your pull system for these to connect to. Moving on to the pull system now, we are going to have our canopy pull plates. 2 of those. We're gonna have our 6 canopy pulls. We are gonna have our 6 plugs on the bottom here. So these are really easy. You notice, pretty simple. And what these are gonna do is, this is gonna separate the metal on the pole from the metal on the plate itself. So all we're gonna do is we're gonna look at, once again, we've got a notch side and a side that isn't notched. We want the notch side to be with the flat side of this plug, okay? So all I'm simply doing is going right here, setting it in. Sometimes you gotta kind of work it in there a little bit because it's gotta get just right. There we go, we have that. Now what I'm gonna do at that point is I'm either gonna give it a quick little tap and that'll get the holes in place. Otherwise you could take a rubber mallet too as well and just kind of pop it in there real quick. But we've got all those done. And so we're gonna move on to that process in a moment here, but we'll finish up putting all those on. And one thing I wanna talk about with this plate is there's 2 of them here. What you wanna do is you're gonna have one side that has a part number that is embroidered into it, okay? You're gonna have one side with a part number, and you're gonna have one side that does not have a part number. What I tell people too is how you can identify is you've got a flat side, and you've got a kind of rounded off side, okay? Or a smoother side, I should say. So when we do this, we want to have one side of the poles on that rounded side without the part number, and one side of the poles on that side, that's the flat spot with the part number. So when it's all said and done, it's gonna look like this sitting in front of your fish house. So if you can get an idea of that. You want this narrowed down end right here to be facing towards the front of your fish house. Because if you have it sitting backwards like that, the pull assembly is not gonna work correctly. So we're gonna get these put on and we'll move on to this next step. We're ready to assemble the canopy poles. So what we're gonna need for this is we're gonna need our, okay, you're just gonna need 2 of these. These are gonna be our main bolts that are gonna actually go through the system and connect to the mounting brackets. And then the next set that we're gonna need is the 106 455s. These are gonna assemble all of our poles. We are gonna want our black washers. We're gonna want our plates, and we're gonna want our 6 canopy poles. So very, very simple to put this system together. And how we're gonna start it is I'll start from the back, which this to me is the rear, okay? We're gonna start off on that embroidered numbered side, okay? So all I'm gonna simply do is I'm gonna lay this down. You wanna go into this bottom hole. I'm gonna lay that down like so. I'm gonna take one of my 106 455s. And at this point, all I'm going to do is hand tighten them. So we got that through there. We're gonna find the slot. These are threaded. So once you start, you can see right there that it threads. And I don't need to lift it all the way. I just wanna get it in there a little bit. So what we're now gonna do is we're gonna move on to the second pole. And now this one, we're gonna want our washers. And we're gonna want one of these. And so what I'm gonna do is you're gonna have 5 in here. Don't be worried, there's 1 extra. As you see in all the hardware, you're gonna have 1 extra piece of hardware within that, and that's just something we give out in case you need it down the road. So we're gonna take 2 of these, we're gonna stack them together, okay? Now I'm gonna take with this pole, what I like to do first is I like to run the bolt, which will be this one right here. I like to run that through first, okay? And then what I'll do is stack these underneath. Basically what these are is a spacer so it lines up with that actual plug itself so you don't have anything off. And then I'm gonna find that hole, lay it all down on there. Just kind of give her a quick tighten. Like I said, we don't need to go fully tight on this. And now we're gonna take that longer one and we're gonna add that in. Once again, same thing, just kind of thread it in there. Don't need to go crazy. So that part's done. Now last but not least, we're gonna add this one same way we did with the back. So I'm just gonna run it through, just like so. Put it on there, get it snug, okay? And now from this point, we're gonna take our Allen wrench. If you like T-handles, you can take a T-handle. If you need to know the size, it's a 5/32, okay? And all we're gonna do is hand tighten these. We're gonna snug them down. We don't need to go crazy on this. The last thing you wanna do is bend these poles inward, because if you do that, you're gonna have problems and you'll be calling us for a new one. So we're just gonna hand tighten like so. Like I said, we don't need to go crazy on it. You know, this one will get this one in there a little bit. There we go. Once again, basically what I do is I go until it stops me. I'm not putting brute force on it. I'm just putting enough. And then that one. Okay, got that done. Now, all we're gonna left to do here is, we've got 3 of these right here. You'll get a 101 082s. This is all that these will be used for is this. So all we're gonna do here is take out 3 of them. Okay, they're nylon lock nuts. I like to just throw them on. Okay, and from that point we can either use a 7/16 inch wrench, which I have right here, and we're just gonna tighten them down. Now you don't need to go crazy tight on this either. Once it reaches the plate, you're good, because you still want these to move a little bit. You want them to be tight, but you don't want them to be so tight that they want to loosen themselves. Okay, so right there, it's tight. I'm gonna repeat that process on this, and then I'm gonna get this side done, and after that, we'll move on to all the pieces that go into the tub. All right, we've got everything assembled now at this point. So what I wanna go over is a few quick things just to make sure that you have it assembled correctly. So as you can see, we've got both of our sides here. I'll move this pole out of the way. You can see that one side is that side that has the part number on it, okay? And the other side does not have that part number. Remember what I said about that flat side and that rounded outside. So you want to make sure that you do one side on each. So when you're done, these poles on both of them on the outside should face each other going in, okay? So then it'll look a little something like this when we're all done, okay? So very simple setup, very easy to do. That is the pole assembly itself. Now we can move on to the seat rail. Now that we have finished up the pole assembly, now we're gonna work on building up the rest of the frame of the house. So what we're gonna first start is we're gonna first start with those seat brackets that I was talking to you about. These are gonna mount the seats to the base. They're gonna be removable, etc., but they'll keep them in position. So what we're gonna want for that is we're gonna want these. Okay, these are gonna be a 106-794, excuse me, 105-794. And we're gonna want 4 of them. How you can identify 2 is it's got a squared head on top. That's gonna be the only one like this in the package. So what we're gonna wanna do is we're gonna wanna take 2 of our washers, like we used on the seat system, and we're gonna wanna put those on. So it'll look something like this when it's done. Okay, and now from that point on, we're gonna take this bracket, we're gonna add those. Okay, and all we're gonna do is attach them to the 2 front holes, okay? So once that's on there, I'm gonna take 2 of my nylon locking nuts, and we're just gonna thread underneath. Okay, and then we're gonna repeat that same process for the other side. Okay, we've got those on, and from that point on, we're gonna tighten them down. First, what I'll do though, what I like to do, is I like to just get, since it's only a couple parts, I like to just do it all at once and get that done with. So then at this point, we're gonna grab these, which is a 106-286. We're gonna need 4 of them. Okay, so we've got those 4. We're gonna take our mounting brackets. Okay, and how you can understand how this needs to go onto the house is your 2 holes are right here. Okay, we want the L to be facing outward. Otherwise, if you look close, I don't know if I can shine it right in the light, but you'll see the part number in there. That part number should be facing the inside. So when you're looking at it from the outside here, it'll look upside down, and that's the way you want it. So we're gonna put those in. Okay, I like to hold them like guitar strings. I'll just set those into place like so. And all I'm gonna do is tighten down here real quick. Let's get them hand tight. Okay. Very quick, I'm just gonna repeat that same process on the other side. Okay, now that we got that all done, we're gonna tighten down, and after everything's tightened up, we'll put the pole brackets on, and we're just about done with the frame. We got everything tightened down. Last thing to do here before we put the hoop poles on is attach our canopy brackets here with the plates. So all I'm gonna do here is I've got this black washer. It's a little thicker, as you notice. We're gonna set that on there. What that's doing is that is basically keeping these lock nuts from touching the side of the plate. So all I'm gonna do there, and I'm gonna take my nylon lock nut, I'm gonna go into the first hole that's towards the front of the fish house. Do not go into this back one, there's no need for that. So we're gonna go into that front one. Just gonna hand tighten it just like that, simply put. From there, what we'll do is I'll grab that other side. We'll tighten these down, just like so. Get it snug, you don't need to get it crazy tight. You just don't want it to be floppy and loose. So get that tight just like so. There we go. This side's done. We will repeat this exact same process on the other side. And after that, we'll be ready to put the hoop poles on, finish our frame, and get started with the tent. We got everything done. Now it's time to put the hoop poles on. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go through with our collars, and like I had mentioned to you before about opening them up, it's something I just like to do in general throughout all of them. So I'm gonna turn them all out like that, get that thing free. Just gonna make it really easy when it comes down to putting them all on. It just goes quicker. So we'll go through, we'll do that. Okay, so we got them all done. Now we're ready to attach. So once again, I'm gonna grab that. Okay, we're gonna slide it on. Heard that clip into place there. Take our electrical tape again. And we're gonna go all the way around. Give it 2 wraps. I'll pull it off from there. I'll add one more. Doing that. Okay, so we're good to go right there. Now we're just going to attach them on. So what I like to do is I hold it in my arm kind of like this. I use my elbow. My arm is a point, and then I just kind of stuff it in there. It just makes it easier when you're doing it by yourself, just to hold it in place. So all I'm doing is I'm going to that bottom pole, and I'm just putting it on. I'm not clipping these down yet. Okay, and then we're gonna do the same thing again for this side, really easy. Then what I'm gonna do is just kind of tap it and work it in until it evens out. Now that one's on. So the next thing we're gonna work on here is doing our extension. So this is the extension we worked on earlier, okay? We're gonna add those 2 RPSX clips. All right, so we got that. Now, when we go to install this extension, we want to make sure that the extension part that's right here is laying on top. We don't want it facing down, otherwise it's not going to work for you. This extension is what leans up at that 45 just over your head in front of you. So we're going to do the same process again. Slide on the one side, and then go over to the other side. Do the same thing, kind of move these up a little bit. Just kind of work it on. Okay, it's all on. Now we've got all the poles done. We've got one left. We are not going to attach this one yet, and you'll see why when we get done putting the tent on. So now before we put the tent on, we want to add the seats. The reason we're adding the seats is for extra weight in the tub. So when you are attaching the tent, you have the weight back there. It's not going to be flopping back and forth and stuff, and it's actually going to give you a very good reading on where your tent should be set. So what we're going to do is we're going to attach it to our bars right here, and you've got these 2 front clips, okay? So what I like to do is like to kind of center them up a little bit, like so. As you see, it went into place there, and just like that. So very easy, and then when you want to take them off, all you do is lift these tabs up like so, like that, and it pulls off. So very easy how to take these on and off. But other than that, we attach the second one, ready to rock and roll, and we'll get to the tent. So we're getting ready to put the tent on. First thing we want to do is take care of the rope. So all houses are going to come with a 9-foot rope. If you have the X series lineup of houses, you'll get an 11-foot rope. So real quick and simple, all we're doing is you've got 2 holes down here. That's going to be where they insert into, so you want to go through the outside to the inside, okay? So put it through there, and simply put, all you got to do is tie a knot. So you get a knot, and what I like to do is I get it somewhat close. I want to leave a little slack there so it can stretch and do its thing. And then what I'll simply do is I'll get it close to there and just kind of pound it. And what that's going to do is it's going to cinch the knot up for you. And then all we're going to do at that point is repeat the same exact process. We'll go through, we'll tie our knot, get it close down to where it needs to be, give it a couple hits, and bueno, we've got everything done. So we're good with that part. I would advise doing this before you put the tent on, otherwise it's just kind of a pain to walk around to the inside of it. So, and then what I'll do for the time being when I'm not using the house is I'll simply just tie it a knot. Not even a knot, just give it one turn, That'll just kind of keep it on the inside, keep it out of the way of things and so forth. So now that we got that rope on, let's work on getting the tent. Now we're moving on to the tent here. We've got everything in front of us. The first thing we want to do before we start working on getting the tent on is our U-channel. Okay, now, so for us here on the build line here at Clam Outdoors, what we use is what we call a hot box. And what that is I've got a heater in the back of this box right here. And inside, I have a lineup of U-channels. That's just a real quick way that we do things. But for those that don't have this type of a system set up, a bucket works great. Some type of a 5 or 6 gallon bucket. What you want to do is you want to get water that is just about boiling. You don't want it to be boiling. Think about it when you're making a mouth guard if you're fitting it. You want to have hot water so it loosens everything up and makes everything pliable so you can get the right feed into the mouth. So what we're going to do at this point, what we would do is we'd get some almost boiling water. You don't need it to be boiling. We're going to fill it up as high as we can. So I would say, you know, get it at least till it's 3/4 up on the bucket. You want to have as much water as you possibly can so you can put this in there. And what you'll simply do is, in a situation saying that this was still cold and stiff, what I would do is I would take it and I would wrap it up. So I want to get it as tight as I can. And the reason I want to get it as tight as I can is because I want it to go down as far as I can in the bucket. That's going to keep it warm. That's going to keep it ready to roll. So what we would do at that point is I would put it in there. Now at this point, everything is warming up. We can put this off to the side. You know, you want to let it sit for, 3 minutes. So if you're not too far into the tent at that point, maybe do it about halfway, put it in there. 3 to 5 minutes, I think, is plenty. You don't want the water to get cold. You want it to stay warm, because the warmer it is, the more pliable that U-channel is going to be. So at this point, we've got it in the bucket. Now we're ready to start getting the tent on. So first thing that I'm going to do before I work into this tent is I'm going to come back here and I'm going to extend my poles. So with this system here, I'm going to start off with the back one. Flip these in quick. Yep, so we'll get it out and make sure that when you do this, that you click these out. So as we have shown earlier, I had them set up like so. Make sure you put those in so your pole goes into place. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to extend this whole system, but I'm not going to extend the 45 yet. I'm not going to extend this extension. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to get the tent on. Once I get everything strapped, then I will pull it out from there. This just makes it easier because when this pole extends, it's going to sit out about here and it's going to make it tough for you to strap on the rest of them. So the old way of doing this was pull the tent out, set it up, put all the spreader poles in, and then droop it over the top. But I'm going to show you an easier way and how we do it here, and makes it very simple. And it actually gets it so everything fits right into place how it should. So first thing we're going to do is obviously pull it out of the package. So we've got everything out of the package. The tent sits in front of us. I'm going to push this away. Another quick tip when you're about to do the tent, if you have some type of a table you can put it on, that's great. If you have to put it on the floor, that's no big deal at all. If you do have a table, you want it to be long enough for the length of your house, and you want it to be level. So the last thing you want is to have a table that is either A, too short or not level on it, because just the smallest little difference in how you set your tent is going to show how the front of the tent sits. So you want to make sure that you've got a good level surface. I'm just going to say some type of a hard surface that's flat. That's going to be the best way to do it. So like I said, in years past, what the trick was is to pull everything out, set up the whole house, and then droop it over the top. But this way is a little bit different how we do it, and it's actually very easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to unfold this tent. Put the pole over here for now. I'm going to unfold this tent, and the first goal that I want to do is I want to find the back of this tent. So the quick way to understand where the back of the tent is you've got the skirt material right here. This is leading from halfway in the house around the front, okay? The rear of the house does not have that skirt material, as you can see. So you can see the difference right here, okay? So this is how we identify that this is the back of the tent. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the center. And how you can do that is by looking for the rear door. This is going to be your rear door. That's going to show you center of the tent is about right here. So at this point, all I'm gonna physically do is come in here, I'm gonna come to the sides, and I'm gonna flip it inside out. So you don't need to go completely out, flipped it out inside out, just get a start on it. So right now we've got the start on it, and so now what I'm going to look for is the Clam logo. So you're gonna see the Clam logo, it's gonna be right here in the rear. That's gonna identify that that is the back of the house. So, and then the next thing I'm gonna look for is these. You've got a bunch of Velcro, but all of them are one big single piece, okay? So they're all one big single piece. So very easy to identify that. And the center of the rear is going to have two slimmer pieces close to each other. They're about an inch and a half apart. And that's gonna dictate that that is the rear center of the house. So now that I know that this is it, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab all my material and I'm gonna walk to the back of the house. So what we'll do is we'll come to the back. And a quick way to do this is what you want when you are doing this. Now that we're looking, we know that this is the back, okay? So if we're sitting in the house, right behind our heads is this logo. We want this logo to face forward as we're putting the tent on, okay? So now that we can see that, I'm gonna go down to my first part here, and I'm gonna find my center pieces, and I'm going to attach that to the bottom of this hoop pole. So I do not wanna go snug. I want to just have it loose. I don't need it tight, because if you have it tight, it doesn't give that tent room to move. And in return, if you get on a really stiff, windy day, if it's extremely tight, something were to get caught in there, you could rip something. So being able to have a little bit of open room there on the Velcro makes a big difference for this tent to move around and do what it has to do. So all I'm gonna do is get those two, and then I'm gonna work over. Open that up. Put that on there. Once again, I'm leaving slack, I'm leaving room. Work over to this third one. Okay, we'll get that around. Still leaving the slack in there. And now I'm gonna move up to the next. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna get the tent out like so, and I'm going to find the next set of Velcro. The easiest way to do that, to understand where your next set is, follow down from the center. So follow the center, and it's gonna come right to the next one. So that's gonna be your next piece. Now, like I said, this one is the only one that's gonna have those two separate pieces. The rest is gonna be thick ones. So from that point on, now I'll come to the second one. I'll put that on there like so. I'm gonna move over, find the other one. Repeat that same process. Same thing here, follow it to the side. There it is. And you're gonna tell right away that you've got the right ones, because everything's gonna line up with each other as you're doing this. So do that way, straighten it back out again. Now I'm gonna keep following it down. Your last one is going to be just after your cargo net. So those will be your last pieces. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get it all stretched out. Okay, here's my center one again. Gonna do the same thing. You're leaving slack in all of these. You're not tightening down any of them. There we go. And we're gonna do this one. Okay. And then followed by this one. Okay, so we've got majority of it done. Now at this point, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push forward a little bit. I'm gonna flatten this out. I'm gonna find my two seams. You're gonna have two seams, and how you can tell which seams those are is now you're gonna see your two front windows, okay? So these are gonna be your windows. Your seams are gonna be right on the edge of it. So I do this, it's just an easier way of me finding the center. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna set the front of the tent up here. Now I've got all my loops for the hoop pole. I've got everything sitting in front of me. So now at this point, I'm gonna grab the hoop pole and we're gonna slide this through. Now that we've got that sitting right here, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to attach one RPSX clip. I don't need to do them both yet because we still have to run one side through. So just like all the others, we're gonna attach it, put it on there, find where it clicks in. I'm gonna do 2 quick rolls of electrical tape just to get it tight. 1, 2. Now that's in there. Now what we can do from this point on is we can slide it through. So we're gonna take this over here. There's no specific way you need to do it. You can start on that side, you can start on this side. I always just start on this side. That's the way I do things. But if you wanna go over there, there ain't no problem in that whatsoever. So all we're gonna do is we're gonna take the front of this, okay? We're gonna make sure we find where the loop starts. So, and all I'm gonna simply do is slide it through. Okay, when you get to about this point, things are gonna start to bunch up a little bit. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to lift and I'm gonna start pulling from the other side that I went in through. Now that I've done that, it's all laid out. I'm gonna lay it down like so. I'm just going to attach the one end so it doesn't move around on me. Flip that lever down, click it into place. Now we will move on to that side and we will put this one on. So now that we're at this point, I'm gonna do the same thing I did with the rest of the RPSX clips. Connect that in there. Do a couple little rolls of electrical tape. Let's keep everything in place. Okay, we did our 2. Now we're good there. Set that there. Same process. Just gonna put it in just enough. Flip that lever, extend it, and now we're in good shape. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna quickly go around to the visible Velcro that's left. Now you're gonna have 2 corner pieces on each side, okay? And you're gonna take it, you're gonna go under like the same. Now this one you can't go too far on it, but we're gonna still keep it loose. We want every single piece of Velcro in this to stay loose. We do not want it tight. Now that we got the 2 corners, we gotta remember that we have one more visible area. So this is gonna be along the side and you're gonna see it. It's gonna run right along the zipper on both sides for the doors. And all we're doing is attaching this one here. We're not gonna attach any other ones at this point. We're just gonna get these main ones done. So we got that one. And then we've also got one more on this side. And we're just gonna repeat that same process. Put it in there, make sure it's nice and loose. It's gotta move around. So now that we have that done, we're ready to flip this tent over. But the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna extend that extension. So all we're gonna do there is we're gonna have to move the tent around a little bit to get it going. So kind of just fold things out. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna extend that. So we got that. Got that. So now this is how everything looks, okay? So at this point, I'm ready to flip the tent. All right, we're ready to flip over the tent and get it set up. When you're doing this part of it with the 2-person shelters, it's a lot easier with 2 rather than 1. You can definitely do it with 1, but it's a lot easier with 2. So I've got my good friend and partner in crime here at Clam, Roberto. And what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna flip this tent over. So this tent is inside out at this point. And what we're doing is we're flipping everything over. So as you would have thought earlier in this that everything's going inside out, I don't know if this is gonna work. You're actually gonna see how cool and effective this actually is. So now what I'm gonna do is Roberto's gonna sit on the one side. I'm gonna stand on the other side. We're gonna grab all of the poles. We're not gonna grab one. We're gonna grab everything at once. And all we're simply gonna do is bring it up. Bring it so it's vertical with everything. Now we're gonna start from the front pole. We're gonna let that fall. And basically all we're doing is letting everything fall into place. You know, it's easier, keep your head inside here. But now at this point, we're just gonna let everything fall right into place. And we're gonna kind of move it around, just shake it. So now that you can see the whole tent is set. So Roberto's gonna hold on to the one side while I come through to the back. And I'm gonna grab the back corner. And what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna, at this point, take some type of a clamp. It can be a wood clamp, it can be a paper clamp, anything you need is a clamp. All we're doing right now is just gonna hold it in place. So that's just gonna help hold this tent in place. And I'm gonna come around and I'm gonna do the same exact thing right here. So now that we've got this tent in place, now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go around it. We're gonna get it set back. We're gonna go around the tent and we're gonna make sure everything's in place of how it needs to be. So if there's any adjustments that need to be done, we can do that. It looks pretty darn good, but we're just gonna go around. One thing I like to do is I like to come to the front and I'll give it a couple hits. So that means if anything is hung up on the top there, it'll loosen it and bring it forward like it's supposed to. So I know that's good. All this is good. Everything looks good back here. Let's come to the back now. Let's make sure things are centered. So now as you can see when we're looking at this, here is our seam, and our seam is a little bit far in. So we want to readjust that. So what I'll do is I'll leave the one on there, and I'm gonna simply just take it and kind of move it over a hair. Okay, basically what I can say is about where they need to be is you kind of want them centered up with the corner. Okay, so we can see that one's just like so, and this one shows the same after it's all said and done. So at this point now, I know the tent is centered, and now what I can do is start the process of the U-channel. We've got the tent where we want it to be. We're just about to put on the U-channel, but one big thing we want to do first is we want to make sure the tent is set. And what I mean by setting the tent is we want to have the tension of it perfect. We don't want it to be too loose in the front. We don't want it to be too high, okay? And it's amazing how much a very little amount makes all the difference in the world. So when you're setting this, there's no set amount of material that you should have. It could be 4 inches, it could be 2 inches left, it could be 1 inch left. There's no real, answer to that question. The biggest thing that you need to make sure is that your porch pole is touching the ground, your tension's taken off. That's all that matters. So what I'm gonna do at this point is I'm gonna grab the back corner, and we're gonna do this on both sides, okay? I'm gonna grab the back corner and I'm gonna watch the front, okay? And what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna start slowly pulling up, and you can see that tension. You can see how it lifts. We do not want that off the ground. So all we wanna do is just enough to straighten it out. So right there is where I'm happy. And as you see, I've only got a couple inches. I got about 3 inches, 2.5 inches. So I'm gonna leave that right there. That side's done. I'm gonna walk to the other side. So I'm gonna make sure that this side is good. I can already see that it's in good shape. So we're gonna leave it right where it sits. Okay, so now when we get to this part, we've got everything set where we need it to be. We've got it in the corners. Okay, we wanna make sure that this is touching. So what I'll do is I'll come around and I'll start touching it. What I'm making sure of is that that hoop pole is laying flat on the ground. That's what we want. So, and if you're somebody that likes to have it a little looser in the front, by all means, that's okay to do that. There's no specific way that you need to do this. It's all on how you want it, but you don't want it to be too tight where it sits up off the ground, okay? So now that we've got all that done, we're ready to rock and roll. Now we can put the U-channel on. So at this point, we've let our water kind of warm up our U-channel. We've gotten everything set and ready to go. We're gonna grab our drill. We're gonna need a number 2 Phillips, okay? I'm gonna push this forward a little bit just to give me a little bit of space. We're gonna need our number 2 Phillips. And now we're ready to grab our screws, okay? These are a 101 148. It's gonna come with a bag of them. Okay, now when we do this, you don't need to use every screw in the bag if you don't want to. All we're doing is getting the tent in place. The U-channel is going to do that, and always remember that this screw is going through the U-channel and through the tub and through the tent, so everything is going to lock into place and how it should be. So now what I'm going to do is grab a U-channel. Okay, I've got one. I'm going to leave these down here. If you have some type of a magnetic adapter, that's always the best way to do it, because then you can hold this into place. Okay, and everything will just sit how it needs to be. What I'm going to do is find my center, okay? So there we go. I know that this U-channel is now divided into half. So at this point, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start wrapping it. Pull down a little bit to get it started. Okay, and then I'm gonna get that first little piece in there. Just like that. And this is gonna be basically like stapling it to the back. Okay, so it's gonna be able to hold everything in the spot. Get it in there. Go in. You don't need to go too far in. You don't want to break through the U-channel. So now that I've got that done, now I can start to work along, okay? So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take my thumb with the U-channel that's pliable. You can see it's very loose. I'm able to work it and do whatever I want. I'm gonna take my thumb, I'm gonna hold it on the inside to keep this open, and I'm just gonna apply it, okay? And once you get it started, you really don't even need to use your thumb anymore. Now we're just working it. Okay, we've come to that corner now. We can pull this off. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open it as much as I can. So I'm gonna pretty much leave it like that. And the reason I'm doing that is because it's gonna allow me to just fold it around that corner. Keep everything in place. Okay, we're coming through, and I'll attach the whole U-channel at this point just to get everything on there. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go around, I'm gonna feel around the back side of it and take my fingers and push in, especially on this corner, because when you go in the corner, it likes to ripple in the back. So when I'm doing that, now I'm basically fitting it, because this is at that point where everything's still loose, so it's allowing me to fit this U-channel to the back side of that tent. So I'm gonna come through, do all that like so, and what I'm gonna do now at this point is repeat that same process on the other side. All right, we've got the U-channel all the way around, it's set, it's had time to just kind of sit and apply itself, everything's good. Now what we need to do is we need to cut 8 inches of that U-channel off from the back of the mounting bracket. So how I like to do things is I like to measure it out. I know that 8 inches from here to here is what it is. This is how I measure bluegills. So this is what I do. I find the back. So I'll take my hand and finger and run it along the back side of this until I feel the back side of that bracket. So that's right here, okay? So now that I know that, I'm gonna take my pinky, take my thumb, that's gonna be my measurement. Now I know right here is 8 inches, okay? So now you can take any type of a cutters. You don't need this. You can take a scissors, you can take a knife, pull it down a little bit, just cut it off. So we don't need any more of that. We can reapply it back on. Now after we've done that on both sides, we're ready to apply the rest of the screws. So pretty simple process on that. We're gonna take our screws. All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go along, and it doesn't need to be a specific length on where you want them at. It's where you feel comfortable. I go about 8 inches, 8 to 10 inches. It really doesn't matter. So what I'll do is I'll find there, I'll apply that. I want to find the center of this U-channel. I don't want to go too high and I don't want to go too low. I want to find the center of it, hold on to it, and put it in there. Like I said, you don't need to go crazy on it. You don't want it to pop through. So I'll do one more right here. Now when we get to the corner here, what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to start one here on this side. I'm going to go one here and then one here. Okay, I think out of anything on this U-channel, this is the most vital part of it. So I'm going to do one here. Get that in there. One more here. One more here. Okay, and now I'm just going to run one centered out. And then one more here. All right, at this point we've got the U-channel done, we've got the whole house assembled. We're just about ready to go fishing. So the last thing that we would want to do is come onto the inside of the house and attach the rest of the Velcro. So we're gonna have one Velcro piece on each one of the inside of these poles, okay? All right, we're collapsing down here. We're at the end. We're putting everything down like should be. The RPSS clips, putting them in. Now we're gonna pack her up. So at this point, we've got everything here. What we wanna do is take this material, grab it, and what I simply do is just push it to the inside. I wanna get all the material out from the outside, especially when traveling. That's the last thing that you want. So once we've got all that where we need it to be, All we'll simply do is just fold this back down. Get everything there. We'll go around the back side. We got a couple little flaps back here. Just tuck that all in, make it look nice and neat and pretty. All right, we got everything all nice and tucked in, ready to rock and roll. We're ready to go fishing for the day. So thank you for purchasing your Nanook XT lineup of shelters from Clam Outdoors. This is Mike Raetz. We'll see you on the water.